Hello everyone, CBS GH Spoiler Channel. I hope everyone wonderful day. Minutes ago, Kai makes one final move that completely destroys Drew's last hope forever. Drew Mercer sat across the board, his knuckles pale from gripping the edge of the table, his eyes scanning the 64 squares as if somewhere buried in the ivory and ebony geometry, salvation still existed. The tournament hall of Westbrook Academy had gone completely silent. 42 matches had concluded. Scorecards had been collected. Spectators had gathered their coats and scarves, ready to leave, until someone near the back whispered that the final game was still going. Then nobody moved. Nobody breathed. This was the championship, and for Drew Mercer, it was so much more than that. He had trained for 11 months of waking before dawn, studying grandmaster matches on a cracked laptop screen, filling 3 composition notebooks with opening variations and endgame theory. He had sacrificed his junior year social life, turned down camping trips and birthday parties and lazy Saturday afternoons at the lake. His mother had driven him to regional qualifiers in 4 different cities. His father, who had never once understood the game, had started learning the names of pieces just so he could ask better questions at dinner. All of it, every single sacrifice, had funneled into this moment. And sitting across from him was Kai Yoshida. Kai was 15, the same age as Drew, but there was something about the way he occupied space at a chessboard that made him seem older. He didn't fidget, he didn't sigh. He sat with his hands folded loosely in his lap, his dark eyes drifting across the board with the calm patience of someone watching clouds form. He had won the regional championship 2 years running. College coaches from mathematics programs had already reached out to his parents. Chess commentators called him the quiet machine. His opponents called him something far less flattering once they were out of earshot. Drew had studied Kai the way generals study terrain. He had reviewed every documented match Kai had ever played. He knew Kai preferred the Sicilian defense. He knew Kai had a tendency, subtle, almost invisible, to overcommit his queenside rook in the late middle game. Drew had built his entire strategy around that single thread of vulnerability, pulling it carefully, slowly across 73 moves. And for a while, it had actually worked. By move 58, Drew had maneuvered into a position that 3 different online engines had rated as a slight advantage in his favor. He could feel it, that electric, dizzying sensation of a plan coming together. His bishop sat on d5 like a throne. His rooks controlled 2 open files. He had a passed pawn on the 7th rank that was 1 move away from promotion. The audience had leaned forward collectively. His coach, Mr. Harlan, standing near the side wall with his arms crossed, had allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Drew extended his hand toward his passed pawn and advanced it to the 8th rank, promoting it to a queen with a soft, confident click. 2 queens. He had 2 queens. The room stirred. Someone near the back audibly gasped. A phone camera's flashlight flickered on. Drew sat back and looked at Kai. Kai looked at the board. He did not blink. He did not shift in his seat. He simply looked at the board the way a surgeon looks at a patient, not with alarm, but with complete, focused assessment. His fingers, resting on the table, were absolutely still. 30 seconds passed. Then Kai reached out and moved his knight. 1 move, a single knight, lifted from f6 and placed on e4. Drew stared at it, his brow furrowed. He reached for his mental catalog of positions, flipping through engine lines and defensive formations and counterattack sequences. The knight on e4. What did it threaten? He looked at his queen. He looked at his king. He traced the lines of attack radiating from that one small piece and felt the blood drain from his face. The knight forked his 2 queens. Not just that, if he moved either queen to escape, Kai's bishop, The one Drew had completely stopped accounting for 12 moves earlier slid to G5, pinning his rook. And if he broke the pin, Kai's rook on the open c-file delivered check, forcing his king into the corner, where Kai's second rook was already waiting. It was over. Not in 2 moves, not in 5. It was over right now, in this exact position, with perfect mathematical certainty. Drew could play it out. He could drag it another 15 moves, burn the clock, force Kai to demonstrate every variation, but the conclusion would not change. The universe had already decided. Drew looked up at Kai. Kai was already looking at him, not with arrogance, not with triumph, just with that same quiet steadiness, as if he had known this moment was coming since move 30 and simply been waiting, patiently, for Drew to arrive at it too. Drew's throat tightened. His eyes burned. He thought about his mother in the parking lot, his father's proud text that morning, 11 months of dawns. He reached forward, slowly, and tipped his king onto its side. The hall exhaled. Kai stood and offered his hand across the board. "You pushed me harder than anyone has in 2 years," he said quietly. "That second queen almost broke me." Drew shook his hand. He didn't trust himself to speak. But somewhere underneath the devastation, buried beneath the loss, a single thought flickered to life. Not today, but next year. He was already planning his comeback.